Hey everybody, Alan Brocken here, author of the Towers of Light series. And I'm working on this book, Logan vs. Hateful Strawberries. And the last couple times I've been on, I shared the first two chapters. We're now on chapter 3 of the story. And so I just thought, while my editor has it getting ready for finals, I just take some time to read it and see what you all think. Give me some feedback and I'm happy to maybe make some adjustments in the final edits. And just in case you weren't here last time, at the end of chapter 2, Logan got left on his own to take out the evil strawberries. So let's check it out. Chapter 3. Strawberries. Logan had seen men fell large trees like this before. Usually they chopped a big notch in the side of the tree in the direction they wanted it to fall, then cut it with a saw from the opposite side towards the notch. He didn't doubt his hatchet would chop a big notch really quickly. He'd seen it do amazing things, but he wasn't sure how he was going to cut it from the backside. Now he'd wished he'd asked Aiden to stay until they were done. Aiden would know what to do. Well, maybe the axe would just chop such a big wedge out that the whole thing would fall on its own. As he contemplated this, he realizes he needed to get around to the strawberry side of the tree if it was going to fall that way. Only that side of the tree was next to the drop-off into the depression the strawberries were in. To hit it just right, he would have to stand in thin air. This was going to be harder than he thought. He moved to the very edge of the overhang and tried a gentle test swing of his arm to gauge the distance, and it landed to the left of center. There was no way he was going to be able to cut it correctly from here. He needed to step out a foot or so beyond the edge of the hill to make it work. He scanned the area and there was a low-hanging branch he could grab. So he stretched out with his left hand and found a grip as far out as he could go. That let him lean out an extra foot from the edge, and the test swing connected with the center of the tree. But he knew it wouldn't have much power just swinging from his shoulder with one hand. He leaned back toward the high ground and let go of the branch to think. For a moment, he contemplated going to get help from Pa. He'd know how to get this done, but the blue light around his axe gave him the confidence that he could do this. So he decided it would be a better story to tell Pa how he dropped the tree all on his own. He stretched out again and shuffled his feet a bit to get in a solid position to try to whack the tree. This time he hauled back his arm and let fly with all the power he had. Crack! The axe hit home and a large chunk of wood went flying. Suddenly, loud, angry chitters came from above. Logan looked up to see a very angry raccoon peering out of a hole in the tree he hadn't noticed before. As the raccoon continued to bark at him, Logan could see shiny glints of metal and scraps of cloth in the hole behind the raccoon. The little critter must have a whole treasure chest up there. This gave Logan pause for just a second. If he dropped the tree, he'd destroy the raccoon's home. But there was nothing for it. The darkness needed to be dealt with. "Go on, you, get!" Logan called up to the critter. It continued to bark at him, and with even more ferocity now that it had been acknowledged. "Look, little guy, I don't have time for this." He stared at the creature, trying to make eye contact. "You're just gonna have to find a new tree." More barking ensued, and Logan gave up. He decided that the only way the critter was leaving the tree was if he just kept whacking it. So, Logan hauled back again and hit the tree with a crack. This time, an even bigger chip went flying. The raccoon shrunk back for a moment, and Logan wondered if it might have another way out of the tree. Then it crawled halfway out and barked all the louder. "Sorry, little guy, it's gotta go," Logan called up as he hauled back to whack the tree again. This time, the crack was so powerful that the tree shook with its impact. The impact shook him so much that Logan almost lost his grip on the branch. Before he could rethink his strategy for felling the tree, the raccoon flew down on him. "Ah!" Logan screamed as the raccoon landed, all fur and claws on his head. Under the onslaught, Logan had to choose between letting go of his axe and the tree branch. Sheer instinct allowed him to grip the axe tighter under the raccoon's flurry of claws and teeth. He and the raccoon fell from the ledge, and as they tumbled, Logan twisted in midair to land with a splat, smack in the middle of the corrupted strawberry patch on his belly. The impact knocked the raccoon free, and it rolled to a stop next to the biggest strawberry in the patch. "Ugh," Logan wheezed. He tried to recover the air that had been knocked out of him by the fall. A tinkle of metal sounded as the raccoon's treasures rained down on him from the tree. The faint music ended as a burlap sack floated down on top of his back. Logan looked up to see the raccoon scurrying about, picking up the bits of metal and other debris that had fallen all around. As it gathered things, the critter piled them next to the large strawberry it had landed next to. At least it wasn't bothering him anymore. Logan took a moment to catch his breath before pushing up with his hands into a kneeling position. He was so dazed he didn't realize his hands were resting on corrupted strawberries until they squished between his fingers. Gross! He sat back on his knees and watched as the raccoon finished gathering its treasures next to the strawberry by dragging the burlap sack as close as it could before turning to face Logan, embracing the giant strawberry and barking at him once before taking a huge bite out of the corrupted berry. "Hey, little guy, don't do that," Logan pleaded earnestly. He wasn't sure what darkness strawberries did, but he was pretty sure they couldn't be good for you. As the creature ate, it seemed to calm down. Soon, it was sitting back calmly on its haunches, licking its lips, clearly very satisfied with itself. Its formerly aggressive behavior had been replaced with almost a silly grin. The raccoon let out an enormous belch, and Logan couldn't help but laugh as the raccoon gently rolled onto its back and continued to smack its lips. That was the last thing Logan expected from the strawberries. Aiden said that they would be acid or something awful. There sure wasn't much awful about them. The silly raccoon looked like it had just eaten a whole Thanksgiving dinner. The sensation of the squished strawberries on his hands pulled his attention away from the raccoon. Were they burning? He rubbed his fingers and thumb together, and it felt sticky. It wasn't acid. He was about to wipe the reddish purple on his pants, but realized Mom would be pretty angry trying to get that stain out. He took a closer look, and the scent of strawberry became almost overpowering. It didn't smell rotten like he expected. It was more like the perfect sweet smell of strawberry pie baking. The closer he got it to his nose, the more delightful it smelled. Reflexively, he looked around before licking a blob of sticky pulp off his finger. Oh man, that's amazing! Was the very best strawberry he'd ever tasted. He couldn't help but lick the sticky pulp off each one of his fingers. He had to have more. He scanned around him for the nearest strawberry he hadn't squished on impact and pulled it from the vine. It was easily 3 times the size of the strawberries in the patch at home and an odd purple color, but even still intact, it smelled amazing. He took a big bite and the flavor exploded in his mouth. It was so good and rich. It was like eating Ma's strawberry preserves right out of the jar, except better. He finished the strawberry and thought of having another, but now he just felt overfull. His stomach ached like he'd eaten a gallon of the berries and not just one. At the same time, his vision seemed crystal clear, and he wished he had his spyglass because he felt like he could see all the way to spring fields, with everything being so sharp and vivid. As his senses expanded, he sank back onto the ground and stared up through the thick boughs of the fir trees overhead. Despite the dense foliage, he could catch glimpses as the clouds slowly danced overhead. As he lay there with a growing sense of euphoria, all he could think was, how could anything that tasted so good be bad? Well, that's it for Chapter 3. I hope you're enjoying it. I love to get your feedback. Let me know in the comments, and look forward to my next session that's going to be Chapter 4, The Lying Tongue.